do not have a legal basis to remain will be placed in expedited removal proceedings. DHS is conducting regular expulsion and removal flights to Haiti, Mexico, Ecuador, and Northern Triangle countries. We are very concerned that Haitians who are taking this irregular migration path are receiving false information that the border is open or that temporary protected status is available. I want to make sure that it is known that this is not the way to come to the United States. That is false information. Irregular migration poses a serious security risk to the migrants themselves. Trying to enter the United States illegally is not worth the tragedy, the money, or the effort. As we have said consistently since we published the Federal Register notice officially designating Haiti for temporary protected status, or TPS, only Haitians living in the United States before July 29th are eligible for temporary protected status. We have reiterated that our borders are not open and people should not make the dangerous journey. Individuals and families are subject to border restrictions, including expulsion. Irregular migration poses a significant threat to the health and welfare of border communities and to the lives of the migrants themselves, and should not be attempted. If you come to the United States illegally, you will be returned. Your journey will not succeed, and you will be endangering your life and your family's lives. This administration is committed to developing safe, orderly, and humane pathways for migration, but this is not the way to do it. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce Commissioner Troy Miller of the United States Border Protection.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for joining us here today. And importantly, thank you for what you've done over the last several days to elevate the work that we're doing since this group of migrants began arriving in Del Rio. Your leadership has ensured that DHS could count on a whole of government approach. That is not just a buzzword. It means that the federal government is engaged and mobilizing the necessary resources to process the migrants arriving here at Del Rio quickly, humanely, and maintain the safety of everyone involved. And I can't say thank you enough to the state, local, and NGO partners that are also here with us. Once again, everybody's come together to assist in addressing the needs of the local communities while also addressing the challenging situations we face together. I thank you for everyone's hard work. I also want to thank my colleague, Border Patrol Chief Ortiz. Chief took the helm a few short weeks ago and just in time to lead this important effort in his hometown. The Chief will give additional operational details in just a minute. And I want to thank the CBP workforce, who continue to rally to every situation and challenge we face. I am proud to work alongside the dedicated and resilient men and women of CBP every single day who serve this country with relentless determination and integrity. Finally, I want to stress something important. CBP's message for anyone thinking of entering the United States illegally along the southern border is clear and simple. Our borders are not open. Entering the country illegally is a dangerous undertaking. Don't put your life or put your family's safety in the hands of smugglers or other criminals who will tell you that our borders are open. Don't do it. With that, I want to turn it over to U.S. Border Patrol Chief.
Good morning, and thank you, Acting Commissioner Miller and Secretary Mayorkas, for the support you provided so we can get these resources moved in here as quickly as we have. The coordination within CBP, throughout DHS, and across the federal government is key to our response. This really has been a whole-of-government approach as I've never seen before. And that means it has included our state, local, and NGO partners, and certainly the communities that have come together and worked long hours to address this situation here in Del Rio, Texas, and I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. Also want to talk a little bit about, what we have mobilized. As the Commissioner and the Secretary mentioned, 600 agents. That includes customs officers and Border Patrol agents, mobile field force trained individuals, and DHS volunteer force personnel to the Del Rio sector to improve control of the situation underneath this bridge. We prioritize surging medical support personnel and have expanded the scope and scale of medical support on the ground. This includes the CBP EMTs, DHS volunteer force members, as well as personnel from across the federal government, to include the HHS, the Disaster Medical Assistance Team, who arrived this morning and are continuing to provide services to the migrants. This also includes the San Antonio Fire Department. They sent personnel to assist us, and we want to thank all of these partners for their assistance as we provide integrated on-site medical services and try to reduce the strain on the local community. Together, our teams have been able to handle most medical concerns while continuing to stay in touch with local health systems on issues that may require additional medical care at a facility here in Del Rio. The Del Rio Port of Entry remains closed. Traffic is being rerouted from Del Rio to Eagle Pass to more effectively manage resources and ensure uninterrupted flow of trade and travel. As I said yesterday, U.S. Border Patrol is coordinating with Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the U.S. Coast Guard to move individuals from Del Rio to other processing locations within Texas, including 2,500 on Sunday. DHS is also working to accelerate and increase the frequency and capacity of Title 42 flights to expel individuals to Haiti and other countries of origin. We're achieving our goals. We're getting there and getting to a point where we can manage a population here. We are already seeing it quickly diminish, and we'll continue to see that over the coming days. I talked yesterday about how so much of this migration is driven through social media and word of mouth. And smugglers are significant drivers of the misinformation that gets people to undertake these dangerous journeys. Smugglers continue to recklessly endanger lives of individuals they exploit for their own financial gain. Many of these migrants cross through remote, harsh terrain and unpredictable weather to get this far. Many likely didn't make it. The smugglers leverage misinformation to mislead people. Some of that information is focused on the TPS. Let's be clear, only those individuals living in the United States prior to July 29th are eligible for temporary protected status, or TPS. No one who arrived here this past week will be eligible to get TPS. So here's a fact. We are still enforcing the CDC Title 42 order, and those attempting irregular migration here will not be allowed to enter the United States. They will be removed and sent back to their country of origin as mandated under current laws. I also want to stress that for those being removed to Haiti, our partners at the State Department are working to ensure that there is adequate support when they arrive in Haiti. But the message is clear. Do not attempt the journey. All of you covering here for the media, you're crucial to getting this message out, that the smugglers are unscrupulous and the misinformation is wrong. Our borders are not open, and people should not make the journey. Thank you for being here.
We have time for a few questions. Vanessa, do you have one? Go ahead. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. My question is in regards to, thank you for what you're doing right now. We see a lot of action right now, but this took 4 to 5 days. Why did it take so long as those numbers continued to grow and, you knew they were coming?
So the volume of people was rather sudden, rather dramatic, very quick, and we surged resources according to the pace.
Mr. Secretary, Ken Burton with ABC News. May I ask you, how do you respond to those who say that these Haitian immigrants are being sent back to some really bad conditions faster than others who illegally entered this country?
So that is factually inaccurate. Let me say something with respect to the fact that individuals are being returned to Haiti specifically. What we did is we studied the country conditions in Haiti to determine whether temporary protected status was warranted. When we were going to publish the Federal Register notice announcing TPS several months ago, the tragic assassination of the Haitian leader occurred. We withheld publication of that notice to see what the country conditions would be following the assassination, what the level and extent and duration of any unsettlement was. We watched that. We saw a new government take power. We published accordingly the Federal Register notice and announced that TPS was available for people in the United States as of July 29th. We were accommodating to the conditions in the country, as is our legal obligation to do so. We then saw the tragic and devastating earthquake in Haiti. That earthquake, as tragic and devastating as it is and was, is distinct from the January 10, 2010 earthquake that was not as geographically limited as this one is. We made an assessment based on the country conditions, as we are required to do, that a redesignation of Haiti was not warranted on the facts, on the conditions in Haiti, that Haiti could in fact receive individuals safely. TPS is available to those who have been in the United States before July 29th, and that is not changing.
Go ahead.
Secretary, Ken Molestina with CBS 11 Dallas Fort Worth. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what a colleague mentioned here. She mentioned in the past couple of days, but for many of us who've been reporting on this situation for months now, we know that border officials have been sort of setting off alarms, sending red flags to Washington saying we need help, we need help. Why has it taken so long for you all to sort of dedicate this amount of attention and resources to the border finally after we see what's happening in that bridge?
As I mentioned before, the surge in resources has been commensurate with the surge in migration.
Mr. Secretary, Pedro Rojas with Univision National News. Welcome to the border. I want to ask you, after you saw what while touring the shelter under the bridge, what impacted you the most? And is there a way that you think this could not replicate? Because we have heard that there are groups similar to this one coming to Reynosa, Tamaulipas, and possibly McAllen will see the same scenario in the next few days.
So let me answer the second part of your question first, and then the profound question you posed at the outset. We are communicating, as we have now for months, loudly and clearly, that irregular migration, the perilous journey, is not the journey to take. One risks one's life, the life of one's loved ones, for a mission that will not succeed. We have been, we are, and we will continue to exercise the public health authority of the Centers for Disease Control in light of the fact that this country and this world is confronting a pandemic. Number one. Number two, I saw many different things when I visited the bridge earlier today. It's not the first time that I've visited the bridge during my tenure. First and foremost, let me speak of the heartbreak, because it is tragic to see families, vulnerable individuals who've been deceived by treacherous and exploitative smuggling organizations. It is tragic and it is heartbreaking. I also see, once again, the heroic work of the United States Border Patrol, of field operations, of our state and local partners, and everyone in civil society also coming to the rescue to address the needs of this population as we execute our border authorities, as we are required to do to meet the challenge.
Mr. Secretary, can you describe the conditions currently? As of Saturday and Sunday, people were able to stream somewhat at will, back and forth. The dam is now closed, but further downriver, folks have been able to effectively go back and forth. Do you have operational control of this stretch of border?
We do, and the decision with respect to the movement of people is a calculated decision to meet the operational needs and to serve our operational control. Marcia?
Go ahead. Sarah Brinker.
Mr. Secretary, so you stated repeatedly that this is a challenge, but last month you were recorded privately saying that what's been happening along the border is unsustainable and admitting that there's a crisis. So I'm asking, would you publicly admit right now, what you admitted privately, that what happened
You know,
was a crisis?
I'm going to stop you right there. Let me just say very clearly, we are focused on meeting the challenge. We are focused on mission.
Is this search any different than what we've seen in the RGB? What's different about this particular search?
So this. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Please. This is certainly distinct from the other large movements of migrants that we have observed and to which we've responded. I'm going to let Chief Ortiz provide more detail.
As most of y'all know, I was the deputy and the chief in RGV for 5.5 years. And so the big difference is, one, this is a much smaller community than the Rio Grande Valley, so the capacity both of the CBP and some of the other agencies and partners is much smaller. Secondly, this was a very rapid surge across the border. What we see in RGV, which continues to be the busiest place in the country, has been steady throughout the year. But Del Rio, over the last 6 to 7 months, has seen an uptick in traffic, and we continue to move resources into the area. But more importantly than this, they concentrated in one location in South Texas. They spread out over multiple locations, and so that is the primary difference between the two.
We have time for two more. Sandra, and then over here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Secretary. Could you respond to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's letter sent to the Biden administration today requesting a federal declaration for emergency be declared for the entire state of Texas based on what's happening here?
So we evaluate requests for such a declaration based on the facts on the ground. We will treat this request no differently.
Hi, Secretary. Uriel Garcia with the Texas Tribune. Images have come out of Border Patrol agents whipping Haitian immigrants. So my question to you, do you think that's a humane way to treat migrants?
You are assuming facts, if I may say respectfully, you are assuming facts that have not yet been determined. Chief Ortiz, who's an experienced Border Patrol agent who has ridden horses, trained others to ride horses, can provide greater detail on the specifics.
I will tell you that the Horse Patrol units down here are going to play an integral part in the security response. As you know, we have about half of this area locked down, and we're working on trying to get the other side of the bridge completely locked down. And so what I asked our Horse Patrol units to do yesterday is to do an assessment and find out if we had any individuals in distress, and to be able to provide information and intelligence as to what the smuggling organizations were doing in and around the river. As was witnessed in the video and some of the pictures, the migrants were going back and forth. We do not know who are the smugglers or who are the migrants. So it's important that those Border Patrol agents maintain a level of security for both themselves and for the migrant population as they were trafficking back and forth. But as the Secretary mentioned, I've ridden horses for several years. Operating in the riverine environment on horseback is a difficult situation, and trying to maintain control of those horses so we do not get in a position where we injure a migrant as they're trying to make that treacherous trek across that river is probably more important than anything, and I'm pretty sure and confident that that's exactly what was happening. But we will certainly look into the matter to make sure that we do not have any activity that could be construed as a response to a law enforcement effort that is unacceptable. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add, because Chief Ortiz explained to me that to ensure control of the horse, long reins are used, but we are going to investigate the facts to ensure that the situation is as we understand it to be, and if it's anything different, we will respond accordingly.
We can take one more from our young journalist over here, and then the Secretary can close it up.
That could be any number of you.
Will you be requesting assistance from the Department of Defense? There is obviously law enforcement is overwhelmed here, so do you plan on asking assistance from the DoD?
So it's a very good question because, in fact, the approach has been in all of federal government effort, and frankly, in all the federal government effort in partnership with state and local authorities and with civil society. And the Department of Defense is evaluating a request for assistance, and we hope that will come to fruition very shortly. We just want to thank you for being here. This is a very difficult situation for us. It is extraordinarily challenging. As I said at the outset, it is very, very heartbreaking. We are meeting the challenge. We are addressing the vulnerabilities of the individuals. We are surging resources not only to ensure the security of this area, the security of the community, but also the well-being of the migrants themselves, to address their needs, their food needs, their water needs, their medical needs, and any other needs that they might have. Thank you so much for being here.